Hello, friends! Today we have a super important topic. Oh, what are these rings? Do you know why I put on these rings today? Because my son went to a party where everyone had to dress in the style of the 90s. I gave him these rings so he could wear them and look like a stylish guy from the 90s. And now I took them back from him and put them on myself. Well, no problem. Our topic today is super important, my friends. Our project DOGS is developing artificial intelligence. We are actively developing this system so that it can accurately distinguish fake news from real news. We've already meticulously analyzed almost 100,000 news articles, specifically those written in Ukrainian. But that's not particularly important either, because today, my dear friends, we're going to talk about predictions indeed, about predicting the future. And we've trained that artificial intelligence so incredibly well that now it can truly predict what will genuinely happen with a very, very high probability. We tested it before the meeting between Trump and Putin in Alaska. It predicted exactly where that meeting would take place. It accurately predicted exactly what topics would be discussed there, what specific direction the negotiations would ultimately take, and what the final outcome would be. I even published everything on Telegram, from my very own personal account for everyone to see. I wrote that we have artificial intelligence. I openly wrote the exact location, the name of the military base. We found out that it would actually be a military base. We found out 2 days before the official announcement that it would be a military base, which military base it would be, in which city, what the parties would bring, how those negotiations would go, 2 days before the official announcement where they would take place. And our artificial intelligence predicted everything with precision. It's truly a miracle. Then we started testing it further, its deep analytics, by predicting other events. And our predictions are indeed matching up quite well. And today I am meeting with you not just to talk about these truly amazing achievements of ours. From now on, I'll be reaching out to you more often to share comprehensive details about my service and our various projects. And our projects are absolutely awesome, genuinely cool. They are actively changing the world, making it a much better place. And I'll be your source of news of what's happening in our company, what's happening in the Orthodox Church. Even all of my social media accounts, which used to be pretty passive, such as Instagram, TikTok, my YouTube channel, and Facebook, now I am going to utilize them much more actively, specifically to become a valuable source for you, the primary origin of accurate and reliable information. Because now, using my official position, that is to say, the undeniable fact that I am the owner and the founder of the DOGS project, and many other innovative projects that you will undoubtedly learn about in the future, for those who aren't yet closely following what we do and precisely how we do it, and we are consistently making real technological breakthroughs, which is really quite cool, and we are genuinely proud of that. I will utilize this exceptionally advantageous and strategically important position of mine to comprehensively share with you the latest and most significant news, accompanied by profoundly in-depth and insightful artificial intelligence analytics and detailed interpretations. In other words, we literally have verified information. Let me remind you that we originally developed it to check where the news is honest and where it's fake, where there is some distortion. And as soon as we find additional funding, we will definitely turn this into a public service. So not only will we be publishing news, as we currently do with the comprehensive indexes on the DOGS project website, but we will also give you the valuable opportunity to do that detailed analysis yourself. And accordingly, as soon as I received official confirmation that we are indeed making adequate, serious, and verifiable predictions that can be thoroughly verified, I immediately asked it the crucial question: precisely when and exactly how will Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine ultimately come to an end? Then I received an answer, my friends, a real answer. I received 11 distinct scenarios, but not at all the ones I was truly hoping to get. First of all, I will now present to you those 11 specific scenarios, give their respective probabilities, and provide a bit of a detailed explanation about what each and every one of them is actually about. But right from the very beginning, I want to clearly state that we do not get any specific or definitive date for when this protracted war will be fully and completely over. We do not definitively know, and indeed no one in the entire world accordingly possesses the knowledge of precisely when a full, comprehensive, and truly lasting peace will finally begin to unfold in Ukraine, when the aggressor will be justly and decisively punished for their actions, and when Ukraine will once again experience a calm, tranquil, and genuinely normal life. All the various scenarios and potential outcomes we are currently considering are, in essence, merely half measures, or something of that particular sort. A temporary lull, let us call it that, but one accompanied by very specific and clearly defined dates. And let us commence our discussion with the very last scenario, which is by far the least probable and least likely to occur. This is a demonstrative action purely without striking actual targets, primarily meant for psychological pressure. What is specifically meant here is Russia's potential use of nuclear weapons. As of today, the current probability of this happening is significantly less than 1%. What specific factors or developments could potentially push this particular scenario to become significantly more likely? It could be decisively pushed forward by, for example, a very rapid and unexpected loss of substantial territory by the Russian Federation, leading to a renewed and forceful entry of Ukrainian military forces deep into recognized Russian sovereign territory. However, if the United States of America and the People's Republic of China, that is to say the PRC, do not perceive a significant threat of the use of nuclear weapons, then this inherent risk will progressively become much smaller and smaller. Consequently, it is precisely the profound influence and considerable power of both the United States and China that renders this particular scenario the least probable and most unlikely. We do not need to wait now, according to advanced artificial intelligence analytics and comprehensive data, for a devastating nuclear war to commence. And that is already a small celebration for us, because, according to the analytics, the world is not planning to be engulfed by this global nuclear catastrophe anytime soon. And with that, I congratulate you. Scenario 10, which has about 2%, a little less than 2%, is a global, broadly distracting escalation of conflict and tension. What is that? It is a new crisis, a new global massive crisis in the world outside of Europe, which diverts the resources of the United States, and as a result, the conflict in Ukraine drags on. In the coming years, it is highly probable that there will not be anything that distracts Europe and the United States from their current focus. There will not be a China-Taiwan war. And there will not be any other major significant conflicts that could potentially distract our international partners, Ukraine's allies and partners, from providing essential assistance in this ongoing war. That's also good news. So, the probability that this specific event will happen does indeed exist, but it is considered to be very low. The ninth crucial point is limited NATO involvement after some major, significant incident, and the establishment of a clear, defined line, meaning direct NATO intervention in the ongoing war. That is to say, NATO soldiers would physically enter Ukrainian territory and hold the existing front line. In general, artificial intelligence currently believes that there is no actual, clearly defined front line today. There are many reasons for this, but that's exactly what artificial intelligence thinks. All of these are low probabilities. NATO will not intervene, nuclear war will not start, and no other major conflict will begin. All of these are less than 2%, or perhaps exactly 2%. 3%, we are now going up a little bit more. Now we're at the eighth crucial point. This is a significant energy shock currently impacting the European Union. That is to say, due to the European Union's substantial dependence on Russian extraction, specifically on Russian energy resources, the European Union will inevitably be forced to give up on Ukraine. I'm putting it in very simple and straightforward terms. In other words, a shortage of gas or electricity, or a sharp, sudden rise in prices will change the European Union's attitude toward the war. It won't change 3%. That's very little. So there is indeed such a distinct possibility, but it will only be realized with a very extremely low probability. with exactly the same small 3% probability, an internal political shock will occur within the Russian Federation, meaning a crisis among the elites, a collapse of governance, or some kind of internal pre-political front in the Russian Federation will fall apart. This is also given 3%. So what Ukrainians should consider as a real chance for a clear victory also has a mere 3% probability, which is not large at all. We then go to move up and then rise to a 4% probability. That's still not much, but this is already the 6th point. We're moving up from the 11th to the 6th point. These 4% are conditional. The artificial intelligence called it the Beijing package. That is, active and influential mediation efforts by the People's Republic of China, coupled with substantial economic incentives and the establishment of favorable conditions that decisively bring the Russian Federation closer to achieving a comprehensive victory. An increasingly active role for Pyongyang, where Beijing also plays a significantly active role, and Moscow, relying heavily on their unwavering support, begins to decisively turn the tide both diplomatically and on the front lines of the conflict. Artificial intelligence assigns a 4% probability to this. The chance is small. Let's move on. The 5th point is a Russian breakthrough. Right now, Russia is gathering resources from all over the world, like in the folk tale about Kolobok, a traditional Russian story, where the old woman scraped together whatever she could find and made a breakthrough. This breakthrough is currently expected to occur sometime between January and June of the year 2026, with a relatively low probability of 6%, which is indeed the lowest probability. It certainly could happen, but it most likely will not come to fruition. So that's how artificial intelligence analyzes things, and we can rely on its information. We've checked it multiple times. We've checked it against other events, but this is the most important analysis that Ukrainians need right now, and that's exactly what we're discussing. The 4th most probable scenario, which is more likely than a Russian breakthrough, in other words, the Russian breakthrough is given a 6% chance, while this 4th scenario has an 8% chance. And now we find ourselves looking at scenarios, at numbers, that actually have some probability. This is an incredible chance for victory for Ukraine, which we call, together with you, super resources for Ukraine. Super resources mean, quite literally, an operational breakthrough. That is, there is a chance that at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027, Ukraine will finally receive mass air defense systems, a large number of long-range missiles. Aircraft will be equipped with electronic warfare systems in the necessary quantities and will be able to break through the front line. Our artificial intelligence from the DOCS project, my friends, gives this an 8% chance. How could this happen, and what could push it forward? Political will in the United States and the European Union. At some point they might decide that this breakthrough is very, very necessary for them. And if that happens, it will happen before the beginning of 2027. And now we move on to what are called the 3 most likely scenarios to occur. One of them will probably be implemented in Ukraine. The 3rd scenario, representing 22%, is specifically assigned to the period spanning from 2027 to 2029, so most likely 2028 if we consider the average. What is it? Unfortunately, my friends, this is indeed a protracted and arduous war of attrition. These intense positional battles are currently taking place without any formal or agreed upon ceasefire. It will just continue to keep dragging on in precisely the same way it is now, with no clear end in sight. Sometimes we'll reclaim our land. Sometimes the Russians will take territory. No major changes. But unfortunately, people will continue to keep dying. 22%. This is the projected forecast all the way until the years 2028-2029, according to our thorough analysis. And that's exactly what I would strongly advise you to prepare for in order to be ready. The second scenario, which accounts for 23%, is expected to take place between February and June of 2026. What is that? That's simply a ceasefire. But the major issue of territories and official signing of any full peace agreement is indefinitely postponed. It's simply a temporary cessation of hostilities. Perhaps if a specific public truce plan from the United States and the European Union is actively pushed towards Moscow, a more lasting resolution, 23% is allocated to this scenario. So there is a chance that next year we assign a 23% probability to this outcome. I won't go into the details of the calculation method right now, but that's how it is. 23% of the allocation is specifically designated for the possibility that there will indeed be a ceasefire between February and June of 2026. And number one, a clear and distinct line of control. International observers have been involved in negotiations for years, for a considerable number of years. We could potentially get started on this particular track as early as July or even December of the year 2026. A symbolic 26% of the total is allocated to this particular item. And we will see that we are getting closer to this when we see the official recognition of the front line. There, mandates from various European countries with clear confirmation that they will be fully ready to deploy international observers, but they will certainly not enter there with their own military troops. That is, the troops will wait for the war to stop, but the cessation will not happen. And this is truly the most significant global problem, because this is indeed the most probable and concerning scenario, that in the middle of next year we will inevitably get stuck in this deeply entrenched rut for a very, very long and arduous period of time, and will consequently be negotiating for many, many years, exchanging not only artillery fire but also bitter accusations, and so on and so forth. In other words, none of the various potential scenarios, none of the calculated probabilities of these specific scenarios, which are all individually above a mere 1%, realistically foresee a definitive end to the ongoing conflict or war occurring before the year 2029. This isn't tarot cards, my friends. This isn't some mere dream or prophetic vision of Baba Vanga. This is direct, verifiable analytics, direct and precise analytics from the advanced artificial intelligence that we are meticulously developing for the Comprehensive News AI project, which was specifically created and designed to thoroughly analyze and diligently learn to accurately distinguish real, authentic news from fabricated, deceptive fake news. This sophisticated artificial intelligence, let's call it DOCS, after the distinctive name of the significant project we're currently developing it for, is truly groundbreaking. This is the kind of analytics it provides us. What does it analyze? It carefully analyzes significant events happening in the world, official statements, economic deliveries, and the overall state of the economy. And it also analyzes the behavior of those individuals who make these important statements. Unfortunately, my dear friends, I truly do not have any good news for you about the war ending soon. But we are making progress, progressing technologically together with you. You should know that this is being developed by Ukrainians. Artificial intelligence developed by Ukrainians provides highly reliable forecasts, and that is already a small victory for us. I love you all and bless you. Please like this video and kindly tell your friends that you now possess a reliable source of valuable information. I will come online and diligently answer your questions. We will analyze world events using artificial intelligence precisely according to your requests. So, leave comments wherever you see this video and subscribe to the Telegram channel Father Bodan. Everything there is much more up to date. I love you all. I pray for each of you, friends.